This is LS, and you're on Thorin's YouTube channel, so cut the Western shit.
Now that Team Liquid are the dominant force in the LCS North America, winning 3 straight splits, so tying TSM's record, moving into second place for most championships ever won in the LCS era in North America, the new angle to kind of criticise or downplay or poke at Team Liquid is to piggyback on the whole paid by Steve meme and say he just bought all the best players at their roles, implying, well, of course they'd then win, and they win, therefore it's somehow unfair because everyone else hasn't done that, or there was no skill involved in it, or it's easy to just do that, and anyone could just buy all the best players if they have the money. Now, first of all, that is a gross exaggeration. Like, first of all, let's look at Season 8's lineup, shall we? Not Season 9. So Season 8, they bought Impact. Now, Impact was not the best top laner in the LCS at the time. He was a very good top laner, but everyone already knew if it switches to a carry meta, he is going to be much worse overall. He's not going to be the same strength he was in a tank meta. And you know what? Season 8, especially by the end, was not a tank meta. Then they had Pobelter in the mid lane. I hope I don't have to really argue this one. I like Pobelter in some respects, but he is far from the best mid laner in the North American LCS, the LCS. Like Bjergsen, Jensen, there's loads of players up there. That's why they got Jensen. How could Jensen be an upgrade if they already had the best players at their roles? He's a good player. He's a serviceable player. He's nowhere close to the best mid laner in the LCS, and he certainly wasn't at the end of Season 7 or in Season 8. Now, despite the fact that these two roles aren't the best at their role, aren't the best player at their role particularly, and you look around the league, there are other people you could have gotten, especially if you consider Koreans, Chinese players and Europeans, especially if you've got the money that Steve's supposed to have in this premise, and yet Team Liquid still easily won both LCS finals in the playoffs. In their 2 playoff runs, they dropped a total of 2 games out of 17 games played. That is fucking bonkers. That is ridiculous levels of dominance, and that isn't just having the best players. Then, that whole premise ignores that he did more than just buy good players. Like, first of all, one of the things both eras of Team Liquid, Season 8 and Season 9, appear to have, is they have a strong team concept. Obviously, you're based around Doublelift as your star player, and then you're trying to round out the other roles. I'd argue for Season 9, they've even updated the blueprint of that premise, and hopefully we can see some of that internationally, because we didn't always see it domestically. The balance of the team seems really good. I think one of the cleverest things he did with the Season 8 lineup is that lineup has just enough skill to potentially have a chance internationally. It doesn't have an overwhelming amount. It's nowhere near a super team that people implied. But you look at it, the good thing about it is the balance of all the players made sense. The right type of jungler for the team. A tank top laner who loves to play that style and can absorb pressure. A mid laner who can just hold mid, won't die, won't super carry, will just do well depending on what champion it is, what comp it is. And then the star AD carry. At the time they tried with the playmaking support, that's the only part that didn't really work out. And quite frankly, was OllieJ the best support player? I think you could put him in contention, but people would have had other names there as well. Aframu obviously is a pretty good one. Think of Biofrost who's in TSM. Obviously, we're going to ignore Mithy, etc. Then you look now, they've got Core JJ. Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Again, they've updated the culture aspect. They've updated the concept rather. The balance makes a lot more sense. For me, the balance and the role overlap is actually more key than just who the player is. Because it's the equivalent, as I made this point many times, of having like 3 basketball players who all like to play on the left block. Well, only one person could be there at a time, so it's going to actually get in the way of each other, even though they might be fabulous players. Might be better to have a worse player who plays on the right wing. At least he's got someone to pass to, and a player who shoots the corner 3 and can just get open for you. That would make a lot more sense, even though they're worse players. Steve seems to have established a culture. You look at their culture when you watch the Breaking Point documentary, their culture's a fucking nightmare. You look at the years after that, they're talking a good game, there's nothing going on in terms of the culture, in terms of the coaching elements there. Now you look at them, they on the one hand seem to have fun, doesn't seem to be any kind of disagreements. On the other hand, they seem focused, they seem like a team that gets their job done, that takes it professionally. I think he's struck a really nice balance, and presumably had to go through those hard times and good times at certain points to realise what the right mix was for this particular team. Again, now it's about balancing player personalities and attitudes and mentality with who they are as players and what type of a team it is and what the expectations are. Then you look at the expectations. The expectations are to win. It's no longer just to do well in the playoffs, or let's place top 3, or let's go to Worlds. Now it's win LCS at a minimum, and then let's start doing something Worlds. In that sense, actually, Steve right now is closer to where Reginald used to be the past few years than Reginald is. Then you've got to add in, I think one of the most overlooked and underrated aspects of this team is the coaching. Kane has, for my money, been overlooked for coaching the split. Yeah, I probably would have picked Reaper or maybe Zix, but Kane is very close to those two. But he didn't have a bad team, therefore people didn't want to give him any credit. I've never seen an NA team play as close as this Season 9 Spring Liquid has to that Korean macro punish style where you absorb all the pressure, you scale up, you win in the mid and the late game, and you just look unbeatable when you do that. Go watch that second game at the end of the split that Cloud9 played against Team Liquid. At the time, Cloud9 was so hyped as a team that could beat Team Liquid, they could win the league, and they could not do shit in this game. It was depressing if you were hoping to see them play in the finals. Obviously, they never ended up playing, because you looked at it and you were like, well, if this is supposed to be a team that could beat them, this is over. These boys are going to win the fucking league, aren't they? They're not even having competition. Obviously, they did from TSM, but that was a different style of matchup, right? Then you've got to look at the fact that this kind of aspect goes so contrast to what NA is famous for. NA is famous even through the TSM Season 6, Season 7 era of being about win lane, win game. Haha, we just win mid-game team fights. Oh, we can force this 50-50 Baron. Shall we do it? Like, that was NA all day long. I used to get so frustrated watching it and then talking to Monty and go, what the fuck how can they be so brash and so cocky when this is the fucking style of macro they play in this region? Like, they don't even understand the different variations of what you can do in this game. Then I've got to have no chance matching up against some of the top teams. And what do you know? They so rarely ever were able to accomplish anything when they went international. Only one time a team's ever finished top 4 from NA. Then you look at the facilities. Okay, Team Liquid was actually very early on the facilities angle and trying to get the players into accommodation that wasn't a team house. Sure, that's all been very good, but they've only continued to do it. They've pumped more and more money into it. They've bought in the auxiliary staff. They've got the sports psychologists. They've got the additional people. They've got the full coaching staff. They've got the people who can give you the pep talk, but also the tactical guys. They've got all that completed. Then let's consider this premise of, you just bought the best players. Well, that ignores splits where buying big didn't win. So how about Team Liquid Season 5, right? That was where, for me, they had the most skilled lineup in the LCS. They had Piglet, they had Xpecial, they had Phoenix, they had I Will Dominate, and they had Quaz. That's a really good lineup, man for man for man. In terms of roles, that's a really good lineup, but the overlap wasn't great. They were lacking some shot calling, and they never made an LCS final, despite coming close. They didn't make Worlds, despite coming close. It didn't work out winning at that with just talent at that point in time. How about TSM Season 8, guys? Wait a minute, Season 8, Season 7. Season 8, the season with Mithy and Sven. You think that was a cheap bot lane? You think that didn't cost money? You think having Haunter for another split, that's just fine, is it? Keeping Bjergsen the whole time, picking him over Double, that's just no big deal, right? They spent fucking money on that lineup. It did nothing, realistically. Never went to Worlds, didn't make an LCS final. How about 100 Thieves this split? I know they've been terrible, so people are going to look over them. Look at the fucking players they've got. They've signed Bang, a multiple-time world champion. I'm sure he could have gone to China for Megabucks. They've kept Sunday, a player who, for my money, should be back in Korea playing for a top team. He's so good. They kept Afro, one of the biggest free agents, who that's the whole reason he's in your team. And they accomplished basically fuck all. They didn't even make playoffs. Then you just look generally in the LCS at people who've spent big and how it hasn't worked. So, okay, Hootie helped Immortals to an amazing regular season record. Didn't make any finals with him. What does he do in Clutch Gaming? Sweet fuck all. Massive contract. Higher than some of the TL players. Someday. Sorry, not someday. I'm thinking before. Yellow Star, anyone? People were calling him the GOAT of Western players when he came from Fnatic off that top 4 and joined up with TSM. He was absolute fucking garbage. And that lineup did not win the LCS. They lost to a lineup that had Huhi and Stixay in it. What about Rainover? After all they accomplished with Fnatic and then Immortals in regular splits, Team Liquid was so horny for this guy, weren't they? So they signed him for Megabucks. Massive deal. Terrible lineup. Worse than when they had Dardoch, who was a nightmare in terms of corrosive personality. Then CLG got Rainover. Also terrible. Even with even worse players and at the bottom of the league, not really doing anything. That's why no one even fucking wants him as a player anymore. No one in any region, basically. Then you look, Steve has always been a good GM in terms of securing talent. I wrote an article about this years ago. It's just, he didn't have everything else around the team. He signed St. Vicious when he was still one of the best junglers. He signed Edward when he was one of the best support players. He signed Voidboy when he was still a very talented player. He signed Piglet when he was a world champion. He signed, well, technically he wasn't world champion anymore, although he might have actually signed him before Worlds. He might have started contacting him before that Worlds. He signed Xpecial when he was still a top tier support. He signed Quaz when he was one of the best up-and-comers from the challenger scene we'd ever seen. Now, he didn't get much out of that, but he did sign the talent. Signing talent alone is not it. It's so reductive and dismissive. If people are joking, fair enough, but I think some people really believe it and use it as an excuse to downplay their accomplishments. Then consider, we're in the franchising era. This is when everyone has VC money. This is when everyone has millions and millions. This is when everyone has loads of money. This is when everyone wants to go to NA and get a paid mega box, not have to practice as hard, and just win LCS. Even the teams near the bottom of the standings have money. LCS is literally getting players who, if it wasn't for having better offers, they would be playing in Europe where they come from. They would be playing in China if they're Korean players. Instead, they're coming to LCS. People are buying them. People are putting some of these players and having them not even make the playoffs. Why doesn't it count when they just spend and buy a big name player? Where's their success? Exactly. Then let's consider that where's this premise come from? The reason why it's such a straw man to imply that making a super team wins. It's because when the fuck does making a super team win, with the exception of this split? This split, bizarrely, G2, Team Liquid, SKT, the super teams did win. Wow, so crazy, right? Go and look in history, though. So, OMG Season 5 kept the team that, if you remember, was one game from the final of Worlds that year, had a core that had won the LPL, that had been to 2 Worlds playoffs, and they added OllieJ. And famously, the thing about OMG was they had a very strong mid and top side of the map, and then bot lane was what wasn't as strong. They had Sun, who was kind of more of that utility AD carry type, like third option type guy. They added OllieJ, arguably the greatest Chinese player of all time, a monster even at that point in time, and they had this triple threat god tier team. They weren't able to accomplish anything with it. They couldn't get anywhere close to winning LPL. They didn't make Worlds. They were irrelevant. How about TSM Season 6 Spring? The one with Yellow Star, Doublelift, Bjergsen, Svenskere and Hauntzer. This looked like a great team. These were all these good players, and then Hauntser's like an up-and-comer. That was a worse team than when they got rookie Biofrost in after that. They lost to CLG in the final. They had a terrible record in the regular split for most periods of time. They just weren't that good a team. Then you go and you look, Elements Season 5 Spring. Everyone forgets that one, right? You took what was then, in terms of record, in the summer of Season 4, the most dominant team Europe had ever seen. They won 75% of their games. They won 75% of games in the playoffs. And nobody took them to elimination game, and they won the season. Then they went to Worlds. They perfect gamed a Korean team. They almost did it twice. Yes, they got kaboomed. Then, what happened for Season 5? They brought in Reckless. Many people would call him the best AD carry in Europe. Obviously, I thought Forgiven was better, but whatever. People call him the best AD carry in Europe or the West. They added him, an MVP of Season 4, to the other MVP of Season 4, Froggen. And these are 2 of the best players for 2 of the best teams in Europe, all on one team. And it was terrible. They finished 7th. They quickly fell apart. Reckless literally abandoned the ship after that split, went back to his old stomping ground Fnatic, begged them to take him back into their eventual 18-0 team. What a terrible lineup this was. How about H2K Season 6? A team that had all the pieces, a team that had very good recruits, a team that had a really nice overlap of role balance, didn't have quite the shot calling aspect, didn't have quite the mentality pair up, didn't necessarily have the best coaching, and I thought they had very good coaching, but a coach that's never won before. Okay, yeah, they made Worlds at the end, top 4. That's pretty sick, right? But they never made better than top 4 in the LCS. They never made it to a final. They never won a championship. They had a bunch of players that were better than some of the teams that made finals. Look at that Splice lineup that they had that year, where it was all the Danes and Mickey X. How about KT Roaster in Season 6 and Season 7? So they made some finals. Yeah, Season 6 final. Yeah, they made... let me think. So that'd be Season 7 and Season 8, actually. Apologies there. So they made the Spring Season 7 final, right? They made... no Worlds that year. Didn't win an LCK title that year. Then they come to Season 7. Okay. Made the finals of Summer. Won Summer. Very, very narrowly over a bunch of rookies. Made it to Worlds. Lost to the eventual champions. Pretty good. But still only made top 8. Ultimately, that's not as sick as you'd expect from what is, on my money, one of the craziest rosters ever made. Both versions. Smeb. Godlike MVP level. Candidate for best top laner ever. Deft. Godlike AD carry. Candidate for best AD carry of all time. Matter. Godlike support player. Candidate for best support player of all time. Score. Godlike jungler, candidate for best. That's probably the craziest I've ever made on paper. Never mind that you got Pawn, who actually now has become good again. Never mind that you got Yukal, looked like a very promising rookie. That's an insane lineup. And what did you have over 2 years of playing with those players? You made 2 finals, you won 1 LCK, you made 1 Worlds, and you never made better than top 8 at Worlds. That ain't good enough. And yet buying the best players is supposed to be all we need, right? How about Misfits Season 9 Spring? Are we going to pretend like that wasn't supposed to be a super team, right? All these good players in different teams. What a terrible team. They didn't even make the fucking playoffs in Europe. A region where SK Gaming made the playoffs. A region where Schalke at one point in time was the 2nd best ranked team. Now contrast that with other regions right now and look at those super teams and tell me, who did they develop? Or did they just buy their players? So who did G2 develop, right? Nobody. They just got perks a long time ago, won many championships, and now he just rolls up to a new role. Other than that, they got Mickey X, best mechanical support in Europe. They have Jan Kos from a couple of years ago, already was known as an incredibly good player. I have an article about it, I'll link it in the description box below. They obviously have Wonder, already known as a very strong player from when he was in Splice. They have Caps, the best Western player, who they just bought. Why does no one say G2 just bought their players? Exactly. What about OG? Who did they develop, right? Nobody. Even Sheriff's known as one of the most promising rookies in Europe, along with Upset. Aside from that, they got Mithy, one of the best shot callers and supports we've ever had in Europe. They got Nuke Dog, very, very good mid laner, consistently for many years. They got Alfari, a sleeper, one of the best top laners in the West. And who did they get as jungler? Cold's already known as a good... He was a sleeper himself in Europe because he was not on a great team in Unicorns of Love. They didn't develop any fucking players there, but no one's taking any credit away from them, right? People are saying they had like one of the best GMs and great job. They did, but people are overlooking that it's hard to even get good players sometimes. SK Telecom, who just won LCK, who the fuck did they develop? No one. They did like Katie Russell, just bought all the super players. They bought Khan, one of the best tops in the world. Yes, very brittle, but when he's on his style, incredibly good. They bought Mata from over in Katie Roaster. They got Teddy, clearly the best AD carry in fucking LCK when he was on Jin Air. They got Inclade, a very strong jungler coming over from China in the LPL. All they did is keep Faker, who already is amazing. And remember, they still had to pay mega bucks for Faker to keep him there and not go to fucking China. So credit where credit is due. Other teams spend money. Other teams want and try to get good players. Other teams get imports, get big names, get good coaches. Other teams in NA don't win though, right now. There's only one team in NA wins right now, and that's Team Liquid, and it ain't just because of the checkbook and all the zeros in there. This video was generously supported by Dean Tanglis, Andreas Snazore Westerlund, Butt Pounder 420, JDubs, Chi Mao, Daniel Olivar, Jiangheng Lu, OllieJ, Tobias Bernasconi, NateDOhDoubleG, Alexander Rao, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my main man Jerky's Minion. Now, do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my work? Maybe you want to ask me a question for my monthly AMA. Do you want teasers for who the guests are on my upcoming content? Maybe you want to take part in a monthly esports discussion with yours truly. Well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at the Patreon link in the description box below.